last time we had our meeting scheduled. So I do appreciate everybody coming out. Tonight we're going to discuss the Hillside Lake remediation project. We have our engineers here. Rich Renia is one of the project engineers. He's going to be talking about, he's going to be giving the presentation. Scott Bryan's our town engineer. You'll be helping. You can't hear? Oh, sorry. Is that better? Okay. Rich Renia, Scott Bryan, our engineers, Councilman Ethel Walker, and Town Attorney Tom Wood is with us tonight. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Activities were canceled, and thus this meeting was also canceled. But I would like to point out that sometimes things happen for a reason. I'd like to thank Michael Branson. Michael is on our East Fishkill Conservation Advisory Council. He's also on the Hillside Lake Board. And Michael had brought a design that we actually, at the last minute, I found to be very intriguing, brought it to the engineers. We actually made that part of the presentation tonight as one of the options. So with that, we'll start off with Rich, and Rich will do the presentation on our Hillside Lake rehabilitation.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to go through the slides that we have. I think everybody has a copy. If for some reason I'm going too fast, just let me know. And I believe what we're going to try to do is get through the presentation and then open up for questions afterwards. The first slide that you're seeing on the screen is Hillside Lake. You're looking at a photo of the typical summertime condition. There's a history with Hillside Lake. It was constructed in the 1930s. I don't know how familiar everybody is exactly with the lake, but the lake does have a concrete dam and a spillway. It's located on the west end of the lake. The Hillside Lake is also listed on the New York State DEC 303 list of impaired bodies of water. What that means is that New York State has recognized that Hillside Lake is one of many bodies of water in New York State that has been impaired by pollutants. The rehabilitation project has been talked about, I believe, for nearly 20 years. There's been a lot of work done, and a lot of work done to actually get to this point. And one of the reasons that I've been involved is to try to take all of that information to the lake. Just like if this time of year when all the leaves fall, if you don't remove the leaves from the yard, they'll smother the grass, and then year after year they'll keep smothering and lifting up. So that's what's happening inside of the lake. Also, the runoff will run sediment into the lake. There's areas where the sand from the highway trucks will run into the lake as well. So then when the organic material falls to the bottom of the lake, it rots down. It becomes its own underwater compost pile. And in that process of trying to rot down, it takes oxygen to do that, and that takes oxygen away from the fish, and it creates a very nasty cycle of an unhealthy lake. We had talked about that there's been talk of a rehabilitation project, and the town has been working on this, and the Hillside Lake Board has been working on this for 20 years. Well, the work that's been completed to date is, there has been, the first item is doing soil investigations, soil borings in the bottom of the lake to identify what the material is, to identify is it contaminated or not. The answer to that is that work has been done, and the sediment in the bottom of the lake and the organic material is not contaminated. Then and that was done in 1997 and 2002, two different times the borings were done. And that was part of the application to DEC in 2002. And then more recently, there was an ecology study done. The ecology study was put together, which I believe everybody got a copy of tonight too. And that looked at the reasons why things were happening the way that they are in Hillside Lake. And that identified stormwater runoff and septic runoff as the major issues that are impacting Hillside Lake. It also provided several design options of a way to rehabilitate the lake. It also then outlined steps to completion. And it's a very good report. He explained a lot of the information. He explained what was going on. From all the information that we've compiled, including the ecological study, there's basically three options to look at as far as a rehabilitation project. The first option is dredging. The second option is just trying to maintain the lake the way that it is now and doing different maintenance items. Then the third option is to not do anything and just leave it alone. The dredging option, there's multiple ways to go about dredging. One way is to do hydraulic dredging. Another way is to do mechanical dredging. I'll explain those in further detail with the next slide. Another option is to do a portion of mechanical dredging and keep the materials within the footprint of the original lake, and you end up with a smaller lake. The maintenance-only options that you can look at are mechanical raking, where you have a floating machine that goes out there and basically rakes and cuts the weeds. There's aeration, there's aquicide, which uses chemicals, and then you could possibly try to control some of the weeds with certain types of fish. Hydraulic dredging in a little bit more detail. What hydraulic dredging is it's basically what you would see is a floating barge that would be put out on the lake. It uses an auger head and it uses a pump, and it goes through the soft material only, and it will actually loosen it with the auger head, and then it'll pump it out of the lake while the water is still in the lake. So a slurry of the soft material leaves the lake. To do that, you need to pump it to a location where you can construct a large settling basin, because the water and the sediment has to then be separated again, and then you need to try to get the water to drain back to the lake, because this would be an ongoing process for months, and you can't keep pumping the water out of the lake without having it return back into the lake. It is the least invasive approach, because there's no draining of the lake. You're not putting equipment in the lake, and it's a quiet operation. And you just see a floating barge out there. As I said, it removes the silt and organics only. It will not remove the stumps. That type of equipment is not large enough to remove the stumps. It doesn't reshape the bottom of the lake. As I had said, it only removes the softer material, so it's going to remove the organic material, and it's going to remove the sediment that